What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be going through every NBA team's most disappointing player so far this season. Part 1 with all the Eastern Conference teams is already out, so go watch that video after this one. This video will be about the Western Conference. The first team up is the Los Angeles Clippers, and their most disappointing player to start the season has been all their off-season signings. I was too optimistic about their off-season. I was a pretty big fan of it. I thought a change of scenery for Bradley Beal was going to do him the world of good, but that just hasn't worked out. Before his season-ending hip injury, he was only averaging 8 points on 37% from the field and 36% from three. Brook Lopez has also looked completely lost out there. He hasn't been able to stay in front of anyone on the defensive end, and his offense has been inconsistent at best. I haven't even talked about Chris Paul. He was released, or sent home as he called it, at 3 a.m. after clashing with the coaching staff after averaging 3 points per game. John Collins is the one bright spot this season, but even he has his controversies, as he was traded for Norman Powell, who's having a career year in Miami, but it's completely unfair to put all the blame on him. Moving on to the Memphis Grizzlies, and their most disappointing player so far has been Ja Morant. I'm sure everyone knows about the situation he finds himself in, so there's not a lot I have to say, but his numbers have been down across the board. This season, he's averaging near career lows across the board at 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 7 assists on 35% from the field and 16% from three. His play on the court has been down, but it seems off the court the vibes are still pretty high, when it comes to the playing group at least. He's been seen coaching the players on the sideline. I really don't know what's going on with him, and what his future in Memphis looks like. The next team up is the Utah Jazz, and their most disappointing player so far has been Taylor Hendricks. Coming into the league, Hendricks was always known as a defensive-minded guy while not having the strongest offensive game, but no one knew he was going to be this bad. This season, he's only averaged 3.8 points and 3.5 rebounds and 36% from the field and 25% from three in only 13 minutes a game. It's been so bad, he has been playing behind guys like Kyle Filipowski, Kevin Love, Yusuf Nurkic, and even Kyle Anderson. I don't like going off where players were selected, but he was the 9th pick in 2023 and was selected over guys like Hassan Wallace, Derek Lively, his teammates Keontae George and Bryce Sensabaugh, Jaime Jaquez, and Toumani Camara. Moving on to the Sacramento Kings, and they have a bunch of disappointing players, but the one I went with was Dennis Schroeder. After trading away De'Aaron Fox last year, the Kings were in desperate need of a point guard, and Schroeder was meant to come in and make Levine's, DeRozan, and Sabonis' life easier with his playmaking skills, but it hasn't been the case so far. The most disappointing part of his season has been his scoring and efficiency. This season, he's averaging 12 points and 6 assists on 39% from the field and 33% from three. With Levine and DeRozan facing most of the defensive attention, Schroeder was meant to excel, but the Kings have a ton of issues, so it's unfair to completely blame Schroeder. They really need to blow it up and build around their rookies, Nick Clifford and Maxine Reynard. The next team up is the Los Angeles Lakers, and their most disappointing player has been all their role players. Their role players that were there last season, to be more specific. Their off-season signings have been great to start the season. I didn't think Aiden was a great fit on this team, but he's proved me wrong so far. I was a fan of the LaRavia signing, but I didn't expect him to play as big of a role that he has so far. But guys like Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, Jackson Hayes, and Dalton Knecht haven't been fantastic to start the season. Vincent has had about 3 good games this season since signing with the Lakers, and that hasn't changed this year. I do think Vando should be getting way more playing time than he's got. I get he couldn't put the ball in the basket, to save his life, but his defense is way too good to be rotting on the bench. If you're going to play guys like Luka, LeBron, Austin Reeves, and DeAndre Ayton on the court at the same time, you need someone like Vando, who provides something the other guys don't. Rui Hachimura has been a little underwhelming, but nothing to worry about. And Dalton Connect has been dreadful, even when he gets good looks. Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks, and there's a lot of players I can choose from, but I've decided to go with D'Angelo Russell. With the injury to Kyrie, D'Lo was expected to make the starting point guard spot his own. In the games he's started, he's looked putrid. On the season, Russell has averaged a career-low 11 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 4 assists, and 40% from the field, and 28% from free. His scoring and efficiency isn't the only reason he's been disappointing. His playmaking woes and selfishness has been on full display this season, and it's not like he impacts winning any other ways. I was also tempted to put Anthony Davis here. For his reputation, he's been extremely disappointing. His last couple of years in LA, he stayed healthy for the most part, but since arriving in Dallas, it's been injury after injury. Brandon Williams is also another player that's been quite disappointing, considering how he ended last season. He's been outplayed by Wyatt Nembhard for a lot of the season, and Klay Thompson is the last guy I was choosing between. The next team up is the Denver Nuggets, and their most disappointing player so far has been Cam Johnson. Johnson is one of the better three-point shooters in the league, and playing next to Jokic was meant to take his game to the next level efficiency-wise, but he's gotten off to a rough start shooting the ball. To start the season, Johnson has only averaged 11 points on 45% from the field and 39% from free. He's been a lot better as of late, but in his first 11 games, he averaged 7.1 points on 38% from the field and a pitiful 21% from free. He was meant to be a seamless fit next to Jokic, and I still believe he is, but it didn't look like it to start the season, especially because of what Michael Porter Jr. is doing in Brooklyn. Don't get me wrong, I'd 100% take Johnson over Porter Jr. on the Nuggets, mostly because of the huge defensive gap. But so far, we haven't really seen just how good of a defender Johnson can be. Moving on to the New Orleans Pelicans, and their most disappointing player so far has been Zion Williamson. Once again, Zion is back on the sideline with an injury. But when he has played, he hasn't been that bad. But he definitely hasn't lived up to the hefty expectations that were set out for him before he was drafted. This season, he's averaging 21 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 4 assists on 51% from the field. He struggled with his turnovers this year, averaging 3 a game, and a lot of them are very avoidable. If you told someone before he was drafted that in his 7th year he was only averaging 21 points a game, you'd get called crazy, but it has become a reality. He's always been a more than decent playmaker, but this season he isn't really passing like he did in the past couple of years. The next team up is the Houston Rockets, and their most disappointing player has been Jabari Smith Jr. The Rockets have gotten off to a fantastic start to the season, so there's really not a lot of players to choose from. But Jabari was the 3rd pick in the 2022 draft, and was considered to go over guys like Paolo and Chet for quite a while, heading right up to the start of the draft. This year, he's been asked to play a role of a 3-and-D guy, and he's playing that role pretty well. On the season, he's averaging 15 points and 6 rebounds on 46% from the field and 37% from free. But the lack of star leap on the offensive end is the reason he's been disappointing, especially after the expectations leading into the draft. This year, you can't really blame him, but he can still turn into a 20-point-per-game scorer. Moving on to the San Antonio Spurs, and their most disappointing player this season has been Jeremy Sohan. The Spurs have gotten off to a hot start, so again, there's really no one to choose from other than him. He was the 9th pick in the draft just 3 years ago, so he should be in a prime position for a breakout, but that hasn't happened yet. Sohan has really struggled to get into the rotation this season. In 16 minutes a game, he's averaging 6 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 1.4 assists on 50% from the field, but a poor 28% from 3. Sohan was meant to take a step forward offensively, but is still yet to come. His scoring as a whole, shooting and self-creation has been stagnant since coming into the league. His shooting woes has stopped defenses respecting his shot, which means they pay more attention to Wemby, stopping him from getting the minutes he probably should. The next team up is the Phoenix Suns, and their most disappointing player has been Jalen Green. The Suns are another team that have gotten off to a great start compared to their expectations, and that's from their role players really stepping up. Dillon Brooks is having a career year, averaging 21 points per game. Colin Gillespie is having a breakout season. Ryan Dunn, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Jordan Goodwin, and Mark Williams are all playing their roles. So it's really a process of elimination when it comes to Jalen Green. I didn't want to put him, but I really have no choice. He missed the first 8 games of the season with a hamstring injury. He then played 1 game and 7 minutes before missing the next 16 games and counting for a re-aggravated hamstring injury. In his first game, he did look really good. He went for 29 points on 50% from the field and hitting 6 threes. But his inability to stay on the court for someone that's usually always healthy has really let him down. Moving on to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and their most disappointing player has been Lou Dort, I guess. If Lou Dort is your most disappointing player, then doing something significantly right. Dort hasn't necessarily been bad. He's still providing elite defense on the perimeter, but his offense has looked awful. On the season, he's averaging 8 points, which is the lowest he's averaged since his rookie year, on 37% from the field and 31% from 3. The Thunder's offense can struggle at times. They're heavily reliant on Shea, so it would be nice if he could provide consistent shooting, like what Dillon Brooks has been able to do. But the Thunder did start the season 24-1, so does it really matter? The next team up is the Minnesota Timberwolves, and their most disappointing player so far has been both their rookies from last year's draft. Maybe I was a little too high on Terrence Shannon Jr. after a pretty great rookie season, but I was expecting way more from him in his second year. Hopefully it's just a sophomore slump, and he's not one of those guys that peak in their rookie year, but him already being 25 years old doesn't fill me up with the utmost confidence. This season, he's only averaging 4.8 points and 1.5 rebounds on 40% on both the field and 3 in 13 minutes per game. Him only playing just under 14 minutes a game is also disappointing, but there's clearly a reason why he isn't playing that much. The next guy I can't say I had high hopes for. Rob Dillingham had a lot of potential coming into the league, and the Timberwolves bought into the hype, trading a first-round pick in 2031 and a 2030 pick swap for a guy that's way too small to get real minutes. Usually small guys like him are at least playable on the defensive end, but Rob is not. Not to mention, he's not an efficient scorer on the offensive end. The next team up is the Portland Trail Blazers, and their most disappointing player has been Toumani Camara. Camara has never and probably never will be an offensive force, but he is an incredible defender, one of the best in the league on the perimeter. But his defense has taken a big step back this season. Just last year, Camara was named on an all-defensive team, and this year, he hasn't necessarily been bad, but he has been incredibly underwhelming. Not to mention, he hasn't taken a leap offensively to make up for it. He's still incredibly inconsistent. One game he looks like the perfect 3-and-D guy, and the next he looks like he hasn't shot a basketball in his life. Shaedon Sharpe was another player I was umming and ahhing about. His lack of a leap offensively, even with this Blazers team not being the greatest offense, and the injuries they've faced, has been incredibly disappointing. The last team in this video is the Golden State Warriors, and their most disappointing player has been Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga has yet to take the star leap nearly everyone was expecting him to by now, and most of that is his own fault. He started off the season hot, not just as a scorer, but as a passer too. He started to buy into the Warriors offense, then just like that, he went back to his old self, where he mucked everything up, not just for the Warriors, but for himself as well. On the season, he's averaging 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 2.5 assists, on 43% from the field and 32% from free, to go along with 2.5 turnovers a game. Over his last 4 games where he's gotten playing time, he's only averaged 7.7 points, on an abysmal 30% from the field and 30% from free. It's gotten so bad he has gone 2 straight games where he hasn't gotten a single minute of playing time. After a hot start for the Warriors, he's completely disrupted their offense, and has gotten to a point where Kerr has no choice but to bench him for the entirety of the game. That's gonna end this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know who you think has been the most disappointing for each team. And I'll see you in the next video.